Hello everyone. In today's video we're going to discuss about how to prepare and set up Microsoft Intune as part of our Microsoft Intune management video series. In our previous video we discussed about Microsoft Intune and its features. In today's video I will walk you through the initial configuration steps and preparing Microsoft Intune for managing apps and devices. Microsoft Intune is cloud-based mobility management solution which helps organizations to manage corporate apps, data, and resources. Intune supports Windows, iOS, and Android. Before initiating the configuration, let's make sure we have the prerequisite ready for setting up the Intune. The prerequisites are Microsoft Tenant, valid Intune license, and access to the Intune management portal. Microsoft Tenant is required for Intune, and if you are currently using any O365 services and have a Microsoft Tenant, we are good to proceed with the next step. But in case if you don't have an active tenant, please create a new tenant from the link I provided in the description and enter the details. Once we have created a new tenant, Microsoft will provide us a initial domain, which is something like domain.onmicrosoft.com. Next step is to add your domain as a custom domain to O365, which is a recommended approach for the user friendliness. License requirement. To utilize the Intune benefit, we are required to assign the license to the respective users. Intune license is available as a standalone and also as a part of the other subscriptions. Intune is available in Microsoft 365 E3 E5, EMS E3 or E5, and Microsoft 365 Business. It is also available as an Intune standalone license. As we have added a new Microsoft tenant with a custom domain name, and assuming we have a Intune license with this, next step is to access the Intune management portal. To access the Intune management portal, we need either have a global admin privilege or Intune admin role assigned to us. To assign an Intune role to any user, go to Azure Active Directory, and in the Azure Active Directory, select roles and administrators. Under this Intune administrator, click add assignment and select any user to be escalated as an Intune admin. Now we have added a new Intune administrator to our tenant, and it will take some time for the changes to be effective. After some time, log into the Intune management portal, which is now being referred as Microsoft Endpoint Manager Admin Center. Microsoft is recommending to use endpoint.microsoft.com to access the Intune portal rather than using previous link devicemanagement.microsoft.com or accessing it from the Azure portal. Next step is an important step to select Intune as our MDM authority for our organization and pick a user scope for the Intune. For that, go to Azure Active Directory Admin Center, aad.portal.azure.com. In that, go to Mobility, select Microsoft Intune. So here, select the user scope for device management MDM. So if you want to apply MDM feature for all the users, select all. Or if you want to restrict the Intune feature only to the part of the users in your organization, select some and pick a group of users on the group. So similarly for MEAM, pick all for all the users to be applicable, or pick only the specific user, click on some and select a group to be applied. If you want to just use a device management and not MAM application management, we can also restrict that here. So I am selecting all. So this is applicable to all the users in our organization, both MDM and MAM policies. Let's quickly explore into the Intune management portal. So the dashboard provides you the pictorial representation of the status on your devices, policies, and other management things which you have applied in the VIA portal. In the devices section, we can manage the enrolled devices for Windows, iOS, and Android, and you can set a compliance policies. So the compliance policy is to check whether our devices are in a met the compliance according to our organization standards. Configuration profiles, conditional access is similar to the Azure Active Directory conditional access. The configuration profile is similar to the group policy. Since we cannot use a group policy in Intune, we can configure the settings and apply it accordingly. We can also export the PowerShell script to the devices and manage the Windows updates from here. We can also set the enrollment restriction from here. Enrollment restriction option in the devices provides the admin the ability to control which devices can be enrolled to the Intune. So to use that, go to devices, then under the policy, enrollment restriction. So here we can see the two default policies. One is for device type restriction and device limit restrictions. Device limit restriction provides the ability to control how many devices can be enrolled by a single user, and device type restriction provides the ability to control the type of OS and other criteria. To create a new restriction, use create restriction and select whether device type restriction or device limit restriction. By default, the default policy will be applicable to all the users in our organization. So to customize it, we can create a new restriction. I am renaming it for the executive policy. This is for the device restriction for all the OS type like Android, iOS, or Windows. From here we can set a condition for the device should have a minimum OS version mentioned here, and also we can block the personally owned devices for the enrollment. We can manage the personally owned devices through MAM. If you want to block it, we can block here also. For example, Microsoft have recently announced end of service for Windows 10 1803. So if you're planning to avoid OS which are earlier than Windows 10 OS 1803, we can specify it here like major dot minor dot build. So in this case we are restricting the Windows OS device which are having Windows OS lesser than Windows 10 1803. Similarly, we can restrict the number of devices enrolled by a single user here, the same enrollment restrictions, and create a new restriction for that. By default, the limit is 5 for every user in our organizations. Endpoint security. Endpoint security, as the name describes, it is mainly for the security for the security of the endpoints. From here we can set the security baselines and BitLocker policies and firewall policies from here, and we can also extend our Intune capability to Microsoft Defender ATP from here. Reports. Reports is for gathering the executive level reports. Summary. Users and groups are the replica of Azure Active Directory users and groups. Tenant administration. So in the tenant administration, we can add and customize our tenant experience and check the connector status. So Microsoft Tenant have multiple connectors like connectors to the Microsoft Store for Business, unmanaged Google Play, and Microsoft Defender ATP connectors are some of them. Select end user experiences for adding the customized value for our organization, which will be applicable on the company portal. So click edit, and from here we can add the icons and branding items, and also we can provide the support informations like support phone numbers, mail address for the support team. And apps section in the portal provides you the ability to deploy the application and manage the app data in the devices. So it is mainly for the MA, mobile application management. We can apply the app protection policies from here. So as I mentioned, deploying the application can be Microsoft Store app or Office 365 app or any of the LOB app or the web links, web applications. So we can discuss later in our upcoming videos. Next step is to validate the cName entry in the Intune portal for our domains. So validating the cName entry is not a mandatory thing, but it is required for the simplified enrollment of the device. Otherwise, users are required to connect the Intune to enter the server name during the enrollment. To validate the cName, go to the devices, select enroll devices. Under that, select cName validation. Here provide your public domain. So for example, so I have not added any DNS entry specifically, so the cName validation is failing. If this cName validation is succeeded, then the user can directly enroll the device without entering the MDM server name. If it is failed, we are required to add a new cName entry for the domain. To configure new cName record for our domain, add the cName value in this format. I will add this format in the description. So for if you have a more than a single domain, the cName has to be added for all the domains as mentioned here. So for example, you having a different domain or different subdomain, that has to be added in the DNS. Changes to DNS records might take up to 72 hours to propagate. We can verify later once the DNS record is propagated. Next step is to create groups and assign the license to the user. So assigning the license to the user is simple, like mapping the license to the users, and creating the groups is depends upon our organization's requirement. So every policy can be mapped to different groups. Similarly, we can restrict map the users to different groups according to our requirement. So this picture is just for our references, like we can add a multiple group to a single policies, and we can add a single user to multiple policies, different policies. Thank you for watching this video, and please do subscribe my channel for more videos. Also, if you have any questions, please post it in our comment box. Thank you.